wild brain to keep track of. There's camera 1, there's camera 2, there's
I'm
Dennis,
watching too.
there's camera 3, really. Also overwhelming.
Live.
Live.
No one here yet.
Okay, we're just gonna let people join for the first couple minutes, and if anyone has questions, fire them away. Oh, some audio interference, guys. Inspiration, thank you. People are joining on Instagram, that's great. Heart. Let's give Dennis some hearts. Let's just take care of this right out of the get-go. Dennis is from Turkey.
Yeah, I am.
So we can dispel any rumors that he's not. What else?
What else?
Dennis also brought me a bin of pistachios today, which was very nice.
Also from Turkey.
Also from Turkey.
Antep
Really nice.
fıstığı.
Today is my first day not drinking any coffee, so if I fall over halfway through this week 3 training on Movi, get out of here. You chump. Yeah. So we're going to teach you today, I'll repeat this all when it's actually time, but we're going to teach you how to create awesome Movi-lapses and time-lapses. Dennis and I started on the time-lapse and Movi-lapse adventure probably like 2 years ago on Akira. 3? Long time. So we've been shooting time-lapses and Movi-lapses for a really long time. I've kind of been like hacking together stuff to make it work, and then I would come talk to Dennis and say, hey, could we do this a different way, a better way? And he'd be like, oh, no problem, it'll just take me 2 seconds. And then all of a sudden it works. And then I go shoot it, and it's good. So that's kind of...
Those were fun days with you, yeah.
Yeah. One time he was like doing firmware updates in a Starbucks for me. It was great.
That's Tab hates things like I was fixing while he was driving.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole day we were out shooting and fixing at the same time.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
It was good. We're just walking around Seattle with a backpack and a Movi. Off we go.
3 years later, we are here.
We finally have it released.
Yes, everything is integrated.
Yep.
Movi not only does motion control, it also stitches all the photos together.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy says I love you, Dennis. That's good. So many thumbs up. I didn't... Oh, they say audio is good. Good. They say audio on him is good. Is Hugh's audio is good? YouTube? Hey, how are you? GMB Film says, hey, how are you guys doing? We're doing good. How are you doing? Where are you at? GMB Films with a Z in New Zealand?
Reflex systems just like it as well.
Audio has static, they say, Chris. Glad for this part on Movi-lapse. Been trying that out recently. Need tips when walking around a corner. Tend to rush it. But any tips are very much static and audio from Chris. We'll get it all dialed in.
Is that the Instagram one?
Yeah.
Audio good, audio weak.
Oh, JCEMM95 gave us a thumbs down. You must be so bored in your life to come to this feed and give a thumbs down. Wow. That's just epic. All the way from South Africa. Oh, there's Charles' mom. Hello. Charles, your mom just signed on. He's got headphones on.
It's been a while
Thomas is
since
going to
she's
tell
been
him.
here, actually.
Let's see if we can get Charles over for a brief.
Papa.
Hey, Charles. Charles, come on over. Come on over. Say hi to your mom. Charles' mom. What kind of questions do you want me to ask Charles? What things is he supposed to be doing that you'd like to know about? Come on over here. This is Charles. Charles's mom is an avid Instagram live follower.
Yeah, she watches them all.
What have you not communicated properly to your mother recently? Let's run through the list.
I booked some plane tickets to go visit her in August, and I didn't tell her right away, and she was quite annoyed.
But she knows now.
She knows now.
Okay, well
yeah.
that's not that interesting. I need something that she doesn't know, that you know, that she should know.
I don't know. I FaceTime with her last night, so she knows pretty much everything.
So nothing's transpired in the last 12
No,
hours that mom should know about?
Well, I sprained my ankle at the wedding on Saturday. Didn't tell her about that.
Were you drinking?
No, I was dancing. This is why I shouldn't be dancing.
I don't know, Charles.
Yeah.
That's it?
Just a little bit of drinking.
Do you have a pro tip for us before I kick you off the show?
Today's topic is time-lapse and Movi-lapse, by the way.
Oh. For time-lapse? Whenever I do time-lapse, the result is always better when you put your Movi higher or lower than you usually carry it. Like, capture the full scene, because there's a lot more going on over a larger stretch of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alternate pro tip from Charles. FaceTime your mother once every 24 hours if you want to have a happy and successful life.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Then, are you everybody good on audio? Everyone thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Oh, she says what? That's not good. Audio is quite weak on YouTube. I can hear you guys good. Hello from San Francisco. When do you announce the? I don't know when we announce the winner of the Movi. This person wants Charles' T-shirt. That's great. I would love to get you one. Sound higher, please. Thanks, better. So I think everybody good. Are you good? Happy with the levels?
Yeah.
All right, let's dive in. Dennis and I are only going to teach you once, so make sure you get it right. So our goal today is to turn you into a Movi ninja regarding Movilapse and Time-lapse. So I thought we would start off just quickly explaining the parameters that you have. Hi, Ian. That you have at your disposal for Movilapse. So first off, Movilapse is the little guy running.
Come on this side.
Do you want me to flip around?
Nope, it's all good.
Okay. So in the past episodes, I've talked about getting the phone in the clamp and balancing and all that kind of stuff. So we're not gonna touch on that. So once you select Movilapse, you'll get in here, and the options you can see are response, compression, tilt, and roll lock. So response, this adjusts how fast, the fastest speed that Movi can achieve. And so slowest corresponds to a movement that's 1 degree per second. So if I give them the maximum majestic input there, Movi's panning right at 1 degree per second roughly. If I go to slow, that's in the middle setting, that will be 2 degrees per second. You can see it's a little bit faster. And then slow, slower, slowest. So slowest is 1 degree, slower is 2 degrees, and slow is 4 degrees. That makes sense. I confused myself a little bit there. And then we have compression, which compression will dictate how many times real time the Movilapse plays. So this, if you did 1 times, it'd just be real time, and then you can go all the way up to some crazy number on the top end, 100 times. I tend to shoot most of my Movilapses in the, let's say, the 4 times to 10 times range. You can go higher than 10 times sometimes if you're going to cover really, really huge distances. But the thing you have to keep in mind is when you go higher on time compression, you're going to need to make your moves smoother. And the way to think about it is if you go to a 10 times compression, that means in order for it to look like a normal shot as far as smoothness and panning and tilting, you're going to have to go 10 times slower on your pans and tilts. So the higher you go in compression, the more demanding it's going to be from an operating perspective to get a really great Movilapse. And I think we can show a couple examples. Well, let's just keep talking through the time-lapse or the Movilapse setup just so people can see. So then the other options you have available are tilt lock and roll lock. Oftentimes I will use tilt lock because I know that I don't want to have any bobbles and tilt as I'm moving, because I know I won't be able to move perfectly smoothly. And then the only time I'll undo roll lock is if I'm going to do some kind of creative shot where I know that I'm going to roll over time. But rolling during a Movilapse is a super advanced maneuver. So I would definitely recommend starting with roll locked first and really perfect those. And if you were going to go out and start, like, film your first Movilapse today, what I would say you should do is set your response to slower, set your compression to 10x. You should enable tilt lock, you should enable roll lock, and you should set it up so that you have a frame that you like as far as headroom, and then get a friend to just walk for you through a city or through whatever environment you have and film for about a 5-minute walk, stop it, play back, and see if you like the effect that you're getting. And the variables that you have to control, you can set the response to be slower or faster depending on what you need. You can unlock the tilt, and then you can adjust the compression. And ideally with the compression, what we're trying to do is we want to create a shot that has tons of motion and fills the right size space in our edit, you know. So maybe we want a 10-second Movilapse that really shows somebody cruising through a whole city, a bunch of dynamic moves for the edit that we're trying to do. So those are the variables that you have to control getting a great shot. The other thing I would recommend is make sure you lock If the shot you're going to do is stable enough on exposure that you can get away with locking the exposure, it'll be nice to do that so you don't have the exposure varying up and down as you're moving through space. And then I'll also, this one's not set up with white balance active, but I'll also usually lock white balance too. Actually, is white balance just not showing Movilapse, or is it just not set up on this one?
It's on 1.2 camera.
But you can in the latest one. You can set white balance in Movilapse, right?
Yeah, you
Okay.
have the old app right now.
All right.
This doesn't have Reframe either.
Okay.
I'll get you that set up.
So let me grab this guy.
That also looks like it's the old app. I'll get you a new one.
Any questions to call out?
Just
I've
want
been
to
keeping up.
remind on why we named the parameter slow, slower, slowest.
Yeah.
We could have named it like slow, medium, high, but we wanted to like make sure everyone understands the fact that Movi will move really slow. That's why we called it slow, slower, and slowest. Initially, most of the people like think something is weird in Movilapse since like Movi doesn't seem to be moving at all. But you have to think from time-lapse perspective. Since all your videos will be like speed up at least 10 times, all of the moves Movi does also need to be very slow. That's why we picked really slow settings. So during time-lapse, Movi will do its job by making the motions go super slow, but you also have a job of making sure Movi translationally also is super slow. Like for instance, if you're walking in a street, walking straight, and then you suddenly see someone walking towards you, you tend to like go right just to skip that person. But once you watch that video, you'll see that video is going smooth, and suddenly there's a jump. That's why not only Movi does its job, but you also need to be really careful with how you walk, and it needs to be on a straight line usually.
Yeah. You need to change your way of thinking such that the camera moves through space and the camera pans and tilts 10 times or more smoother than it would in real life, so that when you play it back in Movilapse, it looks correct. Andrew Baxter had a question. Am I required to shoot all footage using the Movi app, or is there some cross support with Filmic Pro? There is no cross support with Filmic Pro yet. We do have an API that will be released sometime in the future where third-party apps will be able to integrate with the Movi app. But you can use Filmic Pro and use Majestic mode on the Movi if you want to, but for some of these advanced features like Movilapse and Time-lapse, you do need to use the actual Movi app. It's executing the Movilapse and the Time-lapse using a combination of the phone and the Movi, so it's important to use Movi for those type of things. How about you, Chris? Any other questions?
How does it work for vertical video with IGTV?
So Chris is shooting vertical right now in Majestic mode, and it works pretty well. Yeah. Do you want to show Reframe?
Sure. Let's find the Movi that first. This doesn't have it.
This one?
That one doesn't have it. This one doesn't have it either. We need a 1.2 firmware. I'll get
Okay.
that set up while you're
I'll
showing
get
this.
it.
Alright. What else did we cover? Yeah, if you watch Hugh's tutorials as well, the emphasis on being slow is there as well. It will say you should walk very, very slowly. So, same thing happens with turns. Obviously, a lot of times when you're walking the streets end, you have to take a left or a right. You need to plan this in advance. So what I do is, let's say I'm walking this way and I need to take a 90-degree left in about 30 seconds. I initiate my moves way in advance this way, so that I know within 30 seconds Movi will end up looking this way. So I start like this, I'm walking, I initiate a move by doing this, and I keep walking in the straight line. Once I know I'm about to enter the turn, I do the same with my walking. I don't suddenly stop and then turn and then start walking. It's important that you put an imaginary line and then kind of follow that curve. This way your video will look a lot more smoother. So I will be carefully walking in a little curve before I enter that turn. That makes sense. Does it make sense, Chris? Yes?
Yeah, it makes sense for sure. I think the key thing is you have to experiment. You got to just go and try it and see how it turns out, and then look at the results and see which parts you don't like. Like when you're traveling, like with Dennis saying, if you skip around somebody on the street, you're going to get a huge jolt in the footage that you don't like. So we have, I have your shots from New York that I thought we could show. You want to come around to you? So is that about 10 times compression there?
Yeah, I always use about 10 to 20.
So with people, 10 times compression I find really works well.
This is a slow motion of the time-lapse.
So these are, Dennis is just walking on the bridges and streets to execute these.
Talk about my experience as well.
Yeah, when we get to the time-lapse section, we can talk about that a little bit more. I just wanted to show the reframe.
Is it your phone?
Yeah, it is.
Can I use that?
Yep, sure.
So there's a couple questions on
Yeah.
any idea of file sizes for Movilapse? For example, on a 5-minute walk on the Camino del Santiago.
I believe they're very close to your regular videos. So they will be exported at either 24 FPS or 30 FPS based on your base frame setting in the camera settings. And then when you're adjusting your duration, so let's say you shot for 100 seconds and your compression was 10x, then you'll get a 10-second video. I don't know how much 10-second video would take
it's not
up
that big,
storage, but
yeah.
they're pretty reasonable. They should match the video output of, like, if you're shooting at regular video at 24 FPS and it's 10 seconds, storage should match with the time lapse.
Another question on battery life. Andrew Baxter, do you have estimates on expected battery life? The Movi will last anywhere between 4 and 8 hours, depending on a few things, like how well balanced it is, and then also what kind of use case you're using it in. So if you're just walking around, there's minimal resistance on the motors. There's minimal current that it takes to stabilize. So the Movi will last quite a while, but if you have it out the window of a car or something like that, it's doing quite a bit of work to stabilize, so it'll be less. But 4 to 8 hours on average in practical use usually turns out to be true.
What about the recharge time?
It recharges in about an hour if you have a USB-C, C2C wall adapter that can really do a high rate. Davey Yang, will the beta of the Android app version be released anytime soon? I would like to help test. We got
Probably.
Banji over here.
Yeah.
Banji, we have an Android question.
Oh, sure.
Come on over.
Oh,
Why not? The question is, will the beta of the Android app version be released anytime soon? Dave Yang would like to test.
Like beta time. Beta
Yeah.
time should be like earliest a month from now. So look for updates then.
Month from now, Dave Yang. And this is Banji. He's doing the Android app. See you later. Status on picture profiles. I don't have a clear status on that. You trying to?
That firmware is old.
Oh,
So that's taking time. Can we
Okay.
cover your frame towards the end?
yeah. Okay, let's go.
I think we went through all the Movilapse stuff, except Reframe, which we'll get back to.
Yeah. Let's talk time lapse. The question? Something funny? He's snickering.
Hashtag bring back Benji.
Well, no. If Banji's here, he's not doing Android. So
don't
be
want
careful what you ask for. Let's talk time lapse. So let's talk through some of the features on time lapse. Where do you want me so you can shoot best to you?
Being over the shoulder is good.
Okay.
Can I set the movie on a tripod and set up an auto pan time lapse?
You can for sure set the Movi on a tripod, and you can definitely set up an auto pan time lapse as well. So I just went into the time-lapse screen, and I'll kind of describe the screen for everybody. You can just sit down if you want. So we've got presets here where you can just choose things. So left, right, up, down, A, B. So A, B allows you to define the A and B point, and then the rest of the presets, they'll just actually execute a pre-programmed move that we like to use. So it'll either go to the left, to the right, to up, or down. So you can quickly use those if you like that move. But when you get in here and you need to set A, B, what it'll ask you to do is set A first. So let's say I'm going to go from here. So I can actually just move it with my fingers. It's in a smooth lock mode right now. So let's say I'm going to start there. So I set A. Now it's going to prompt me to set B. I'm going to.
And then you push the trigger to.
Oh yeah, I hit the trigger. Sorry, wasn't clear on that. So I'm going to end over here somewhere. Okay, so it just gave me a dialog and it said ready. It's a little overexposed, so I'm going to fix that. And then I'm going to go in and get the duration window. So target clip length is 5-second long clip. I'm using a 10x compression, so that'll give me a 50-second shooting duration. And then when I'm ready, So when I'm ready, I'm going to have to press the record button. So I have record confirmation, and then I hit the trigger, and it gives me a 3, 2, 1 countdown. And now the time lapse is going to start. So it's going to take 50 seconds for it to get from its A to B point based on the parameters that I set up. And this is going to be a very boring time lapse, but it's going to show you how it works.
So just
Any
to note
questions?
that this is very similar to how echo mode works, except when you open time-lapse, Movi will go into smooth lock mode,
Yep.
where all the axes are in locked. So you have to manually rotate the movie. We did this with the assumption that you will do most of the time-lapse by setting it down,
Yeah.
and you don't want Movi to fight you. And we are thinking about adding this smooth lock mode to echo as well. So if you like to do echo mostly on a tabletop, you can have the movie not fight you as much.
Any question? He's laughing.
No, well, one separate question. What is the ETA if I were a unit today?
They're in stock, so it should ship tomorrow.
And then Michael wants to know how that. Are you doing that? Are those brushless motors or steppers?
Yeah, these are brushless motors. So I think that was a point I wanted to touch on. Some of the people that actually come around here for one sec, you. I just want to show the end state on the time lapse. So the time lapse just completed. I'm going to stop the record so I don't fill up this phone. But it gives us two options. So reset. So if I reset, it'll clear that time lapse and erase it, and I'll have to set up a new one. But let's say I liked that time lapse, but the timing wasn't good. I didn't get good clouds, or the lighting wasn't quite right. If I want to, I can go back to A and replay that time lapse over again without having to set it up again. But one important point, Dennis mentioned that time lapse is very similar to echo, but when you go into time lapse mode, it's actually, hold on, let me reset it. So when you go into time lapse mode, it's in smooth lock on all axes. So I can just move it and it'll stay. One difference I've noticed people getting a little bit hung up on, when you go into echo mode, come on. Okay, so when you go to echo, it's not going to do that. It's actually going to fight. It's going to try and stabilize. I just wanted to point out that it's fine to move this thing and hold it in echo mode to get the same functionality that people are liking in time-lapse. The motors in here are direct drive brushless motors. There's nothing to hurt. They have temperature sensors, and they will reduce the power to the motors before anything gets damaged. So feel free to manipulate them however you want. There's no gears, there's no reduction, there's nothing to damage. Because I have noticed a few people online being concerned about that. All right, so let's talk about moving time lapses, because that's how you shot a lot of the video that we showed earlier.
Do you have any example of the New York, the Brooklyn Bridge? So we can show people first what we mean.
Can you change the shutter speed or make moving things blur?
This one does?
You currently cannot adjust shutter speed in the Movi app. We are planning to add an option to be able to change shutter angle to achieve that effect, yes.
Are you talking about this one?
Sure, yeah.
Isn't
We
that the
can
one?
pick one of these.
Oh, I see.
Or we
Question
can
about-
just replay that one as well.
Question about being able to record in higher bit rates in the future.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we will enable that for sure. But it's going to come with a later update.
We just want to make sure allowing higher bitrate actually will allow you to get better quality images. Like we've seen a lot of apps that let you pick enormous bit rates and get like gigabytes of video, but I don't see any noticeable difference in image quality for your edits.
Yeah.
So we don't want to expose things just because. You can show this one as an example.
You want me to come around?
Yeah. Is it this? So this is one example of a moving time lapse. And then let's show one more. Okay, going back to the one that was already loaded. One after this is I'm walking. As you can see, it's tilting up as I go.
We'll stop there and then just explain how you did that shot.
So I like to use time-lapse a lot more than the Movi-lapse since I have more control and I like to plan my shots beforehand. So for that one specifically, first thing I did was thinking about how long it would take me to walk from the A point and the end point I'm arriving at. So let's say it was a minute. Then I would open the time-lapse's duration interface and make sure the end result is gonna match my walking speed. And then from there I also mess with the compression and the clip direction to kind of end up again with that shooting duration. That was the first thing I did, thinking about how long it would take me from A to B. The second thing you imagine is the framing. So doing the A framing is easy. You can just point that where you want. But then you have to think within a minute you will be like 200 feet away, let's say. You can imagine like being right under that column where people were on that bridge section. And then imagine, let's say it's like 45 degrees up. So you can set your B duration like that. And then you can set hit record and start moving. Kind of watch your video back and see how it's gonna end up. You can do the same with left to right, which is also fun. You can set a point directly looking straight and then another point directly looking left, and then kind of think how long it will take you to walk through that entire region so that as Movi is rotating, the subject you want to show is within the frame. With the Brooklyn Bridge one, actually, like I had zero time. My friend was so cold, we had to like keep running. And being able to easily like set A and B on the go was like very convenient, and results were actually amazing, like from what I expected.
We're showing reframe on this one?
Yeah. Is that your phone?
Yeah. I think
Okay.
so.
That should be good to go.
Okay. So the one thing we didn't cover because it didn't have the right firmware earlier is the reframe. So
It's not connected. All right.
okay.
Open Movilapse.
Yeah. No.
Just
It's-
use it on this one if you want to show with my phone before it dies. Try this.
So just to explain what Reframe does. So it takes, when you're in Movilapse, we talked about how slow, slower, slowest, it goes 1, 2, and 4 degrees per second max. Reframe gives you the option when you hit the trigger to have a fast, majestic framing speed again, so you can quickly reframe. And I'll show you let me show you some shots that I did with it to give you an idea of the type of effect that you can create. So the compelling thing about Reframe is it allows you to stitch together these sequences of very, very smooth and slow motion with quick reframes, and it creates this really unique effect that I'm a big fan of. So each time I go around one of these sharp corners here, I'm hitting the reframe.
What I want, you got, and it might be hard to handle. Like a flame that burns a candle. The candle feeds the flame. Yeah, yeah, what I've got, full stock of the thoughts and dreams are scattered. Then you
It creates this really dynamic effect that I haven't seen in many places before.
Oh yeah, well, you make my dreams come true. Well, you. Oh yeah, you make my dreams come true. Well, yeah. On a night when bad dreams become a screamer.
That's you.
When the
That's the trash man right there dancing.
I can laugh it in the face.
So for these shots, I was just doing 4x compression because I knew I didn't need to compress that much. But let me show you how that works. So you'll be, I'm walking through the city, walking. I'm following Dennis, and actually, you want to do a little demo?
Oh.
Can you move? Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So let me get framed up.
Do you want to start there instead?
Yep. I'll start there. So what's going to happen is when I hit the trigger, it's going to give me fast control of pan. So I'm ready whenever you're ready. Hold on. Actually, let me set the compression properly. Let's set it 15. So we're not going to go very far, so I'm just going to set this to 5x for now. One other tip on compression, I always under compress if anything, because I know that I can speed it up in post if I want it to go faster. But if you set it too high to begin with and you don't capture enough data, then you're never going to be able to get it back. So, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
I don't know what I'm doing. Just as a heads up, my phone might die
Okay,
in a minute.
you can just turn around and walk, and then
I'm
I'll
gonna
take.
go here.
Oh, okay.
Press and hold.
That should be surrounded by board.
So when you want to do turns, you want to press and hold the trigger, which will release the Movilapse back to majestic. And the fun
Go
was-
around Banji. So you can hold the trigger for a section of really dynamic moves.
So over the shoulder shot here.
Okay. So you can see the effect. Uh-oh. Oh, no. So this is at 5x speed. So it creates some really cool effects. Bring him back. All right.
Can you show how you did the roll version of this?
Yeah.
That one was amazing.
Where is that video? You know where that one lives?
It was NAB.
Okay, we'll post it in the show in the.
Can at least mention how to do that.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how to do it.
You unlock the roll, I think. That's it.
Oh yeah, that's right. So I was cruising around NAB, filming Hugh, and I would do a long section. Can you try and find that video? Is it in my Instagram? I would do a long section where I was track Hugh through NAB, and then at a really cool moment, I would reframe, spin to portrait mode, and then continue tracking Hugh, and then at another time, reframe, spin to upside down, continue tracking Hugh, and there was all these people flying around the convention center. It was really cool.
I don't think any of these.
No? Keep teaching.
Tell a story. Does anybody have any questions? Someone asked about how to do firmware updates. So, once you open the app and Movi is connected, you'll see a little red bubble here if you need firmware updates. Otherwise, you don't. But if you do need, then it will show up under settings, updates, and robot. There will be a button where you can click update, and in about 10 minutes, you'll be good to go with the latest. So that's how you do firmware update. What else is new?
Are you using sensors in the phone for feedback?
Sensors in the phone for feedback. What does that mean, Chris? We are using force touch, like haptic feedback sometimes.
You're not
And
using the sensors
magically.
in the phone. You're just using and sensors are in the Movi, right?
Yeah. Currently, I don't think we are using any of the sensors in the phone to feedback anything back to Movi.
Can you do reframe in Timelapse and Movilapse?
Reframe is specifically intended for Movilapse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Time-lapse, you set your A and B points and you let Movi do the rest.
So I think a couple points I didn't touch on with time-lapse. I either do them like Dennis was describing where you're moving and you can set up these really dynamic ones, or I'll try and set like a really nice stable base, like set it on a tripod or a table. One thing to be aware of is on the phones that do have optical image stabilization, if they do get jolts or hits, it'll show in the footage. So I usually try and find a place to stash my phone for the time lapse where it's not going to get too disturbed or jostled, because I don't want those shots showing up in the footage.
Another recommendation is if you're doing really like you want to get pro and you want to shoot like an hour or 2 hour long time lapse, I recommend putting your phone in airplane mode.
Oh yeah, good one.
If you get phones or something else happens, you don't want to lose that footage. Just as a heads up. And yeah, I like 90% of the time I lock my exposure. I've seen so many people who are trying for the first time forget to lock exposure, and the video will look like it's a disco ball.
Will the Movi app support Moment's new anamorphic lenses?
Yes.
How can I share my time-lapse videos?
On Instagram or YouTube, text them to your mom. That's what I do.
Hashtag Cinema Robot.
Yeah, hashtag Cinema Robot. Text them to Charles' mom. She'd love to see him. She'd be stoked to see it.
What's your personal
About the cinema industry, the ability to do the type of shots that are stabilized, moving through space, all while rolling. There's not very many products that can do that, and to be able to do that is pretty extraordinary, especially in a device that you can carry in your pocket. It's pretty awesome. What about you? What's your
Echo and time lapse, since you can program, like just like Tab said, when we are using Movi Pro, we usually have 2, 3, 4 operators. Usually one guy is running in the field, another guy is controlling framing. But with methods like Echo and Time-lapse, you can just program the framing up front, so you can just focus on bulking. Kind of a two-man job shrunk into one. That's why I love that.
Will you add a vertical mode?
Vertigo?
Yeah.
Why not? If you guys have any feature requests also or bug reports, feel free to go to gomovi.com/beta. There you will find the feedback form, which we read a lot more than Facebook and YouTube and Instagram comments.
And this is the third in our series of Movi training to turn you into a Movi Ninja. So if you missed last week, Dennis and Brent were out filming some stuff. And then there was the first week where I kicked off the training. So you can check those out on YouTube if you missed any of the stuff that we've previously said. A couple other things I wanted to just touch on, tips for time-lapse. You have to kind of learn the subject matter you're shooting. And so humans only move, typically, if they're walking, they only move at a certain speed. So you can only compress them so much before they start to look too crazy. But when you get into things like clouds move at all different kinds of speeds. You can have type of clouds that are moving such that you shoot 30 times compression or something like that. So you have to learn a little bit about the subject matter that you're shooting and what the perfect compression is to showcase. You have some clouds?
Yeah, I think this was like, instead of 10, this was probably like 60, 70x compression during sunset. Replaying one more time. For this, again, I did upfront a little bit of thinking. about like how fast the clouds were moving, and I did a quick test run with setting AB and setting a duration to see if my like following of the clouds were matching with how fast the movie is moving. Um, Another pro tip actually, for things like tracking clouds, you can go to robot, then echo and time lapse. So the default is motion smoothing for echo and time lapse is about 30%, which gives this very nice smoothing at the very beginning and ending of the shot. So that it doesn't look like a robotic shot where it starts and suddenly ends. It adds very nice easing in and then slows down very slowly as well. But if you're trying to get a perfect tracking shot of something, or if you want a linear move, you can turn this value down. So if you have like 1%, the move from A to B will be linear. Whereas if you start increasing this value, you'll get more of that S curve. What else is here? Another pro tip for time lapse is the end behavior. Sorry, for echo. Uh, you can have the end behavior be either hold B point or return. Return is nice if you want to start a preset move with echo, starting A and B, and then once the move is done, it will return back to majestic method. This way you can continue your move in a like a single take. Whereas if you wanna, let's say, capture a party where you wanna start from this one specific group and end at this another group, you would probably want the end behavior to be hold B point. This way, Movi will not go back to its center. It will hold that last point. This way, you can keep recording that last frame, which you can get from settings, robot, and echo time lapse. And hello to Zuza.
I found the shot I wanted to show with I can show using a roll, using roll in time lapse mode, or in Movi-lapse mode. So this was back at NAB.
Make my dreams come true. Listen to this. Ow!
So this is right when Reframe was first created.
I'm down on my daydream. Oh, that sleepwalk should be over by now. I know. You're making my dreams come true.
Yeah, that's great. Is it? He's got a question.
You read?
Yeah. Is it possible to use the phone's GPS to do a pan track on an object landmark far away? Like, totally possible. Something we could completely tackle if we had infinite resources, but we don't. So, I don't know if that's likely to make it in anytime soon. And some of our more advanced professional products will do things like that, but I don't know about this one.
Movi Pro have a Movi app still has that branch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. Well, you can also trick it by you can set the target. You know, it's kind of clunky, but you can set the target and then have it track. Yeah.
Okay.
Good idea. Send your feedback. gomovi.com/beta.
We'll keep hiring. Do we have any other questions we wanna?
There was a question about tracking, and then there was a question about durability.
Tracking. We don't have anything set up for tracking yet. For durability, we have beat the crap out of this thing to make sure that it works. We're a little bit like, if you haven't dealt with FreeFly very much, so we are a small, privately funded company that started about 7 years ago. We haven't taken on any outside investment. So the reason why I'm telling you that is because it's critical that we don't screw up when we release products. So we try to beat the shit out of them internally prior to releasing them so that we don't have to go through the agony of having a product that fails in field. So I think Dennis is probably trying to pull up video of some of the testing we've done. It's pretty funny.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Well, Michael says we'll work for food. Any other questions from you, Chris?
There was a question earlier about temperature durability.
Yeah.
Somebody was asking about 100 something degree weather.
Should be fine. No problem.
Okay, skip to the actual part.
So these are some of the test rigs that we use during the development of a product to make sure that it'll live.
You went right to the end.
I think this is the part, right? So yes, it's durable.
So that was just one of a series of, oh, you can see more tests there. So we set up all kinds of automated tests that really just beat the thing up over time, just to make sure that it's going to live. Yeah.
I did
Great.
a lot of things to my movie.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah, the
was
the
fun.
early versions were not as robust as these ones were, so we learned a lot during the testing and development phase and took that feedback and incorporated it into the product to make sure it's tough. So thanks to everyone for joining. I think that's all we have to teach you about Movilapse and Time-lapse. This is week 3 of a 6-week series that will turn you into a Movi ninja. So tune in next time and
Or like this.
a Movi bodybuilder. All right. Thanks everybody. Bye-bye.